What are the principles that the successful follow that the unsuccessful neglect? There's only one thing worse than losing, and that's winning and not knowing how we won. Your business, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, is a personal development course with a compensation plan attached. The more you grow, the more your income grows.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Art of Mortgage Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Penny Wrightley, and I am here with the one and only Doran Aldana. Doran, how are you today?
I am beyond blessed and highly flavored and favored, Penny. I'm stoked to be here with you. This is going to be a fun episode. I was telling you before we pressed the go button on the recording. I was like, every one of these episodes is like an adventure. You just don't know what's going to happen. You get an idea of what we're going to talk about, but it's always just a spontaneous, kind of unleash of whatever is in the spirit and the heart to share. So we're going to keep it real, keep it raw. And that's the goal on every one of our episodes. But I'm trusting that this one's going to be the best one yet. So I'm excited.
I'm absolutely excited as well. There are some amazing topics we're going to touch on today. Some of these are very close to my heart as well. So I'm super excited to dive into this and just jump right in today. Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready to rock. What are we going to talk about today, Penny? I can't wait to find out.
Beautiful. Well, I'm glad you're ready to find out because today we are going to be talking about the 10 tenets of top producers. What makes these top producers?
Indeed. And what makes them think differently than all the rest? And as we were talking about before we pressed the go button on the recording, this might be a 3-part episode series. Maybe it's 2 parts. We're going to find out. There's going to be a cadence and a rhythm that will unveil whether this is 2 parts or 3 parts. But we have 10 tenets we're going to talk about in this series, 10 tenets of top producers, not just because it's a tongue twister, but because I feel like because this is the beginning of the year, this is perfect timing to get into that. So thinking about what you want to create in the new year, what you did last year, what you want to create this year, and principles and a true North Star that you can follow to guide you on your path, I think is really going to serve you to living your best life in 2025, to thrive in 2025. So that's the inspiration behind this. I was just kind of sketching some ideas down in my journal over the Christmas season as we entered into the new year. And that was the fodder, that was the incubating compulsion that has led into what we're going to be talking about today and over the next 3 parts in this 3-part series.
I love this. So today's episode is brought to us by the inspiration that came to you over the holiday season. I love this.
And it wasn't because I was drinking too much eggnog and rum. I have a feeling there was some perhaps divine orchestration, or maybe just a sense that this is a message that needs to be shared. It's not the kind of thing that you will hear on a typical mortgage marketing podcast, but I feel it's the kindling that will ignite people to stepping into the best version of themselves and creating a life that is worthy of emulation, a life that you can feel proud of. As you say, Penny, a life you don't need a vacation from, and a life that brings fruitfulness and all these beautiful experiences that we want to create in our lives, such as joy, love, contentment, passion, purpose, prosperity. So all of this is really designed to be a guiding path to leading to more of that fruitfulness in your life and your business, both personally and professionally.
Wow. Well, this sounds beautiful. So let's dive in. I'm going to start with the very first question because even I'm wondering a little bit on this one. So we're talking today about the 10 tenets of top producers. So let's start with the first question. What's a tenet?
It's a great question. I had an idea. I didn't use it just because it went with the alliteration of 10 tenets of top producers with all the T's. It wasn't because I was thinking I just wanted to tee things off with a great title, although, it helps to have something like that. You know me, Penny, I love a good title. But as I was preparing this, it occurred to me, I was like, I don't even really know what a tenet is. Maybe I should look it up. So I looked it up, and the Oxford Dictionary definition for a tenet is as follows: a principle or belief, especially one of the main principles of a religion or philosophy. So whether you want to take this as a philosophy or a religion of a way of life for a top producer, I'll let you arrive at your own conclusions. But the thing about a philosophy or a religion is there's a guiding principle or set of principles that guides your path and that you put your trust in and that you conform your life to because you believe it's true and because you believe it's going to either serve God, serve others, or both. And it's going to allow you to live the best life you can possibly live. Now, inside of religion, it's to the glory of God and to the joy of yourself and to the service of others. In a philosophy, it's like, how can I be the most fruitful? How can I have the most sustained, satisfying success? And whether you want to chalk it up as philosophy or religion, I think both certainly apply. So that is the definition of a tenet, Penny.
That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. So with knowing this now and knowing exactly what a tenet is, why should people bother abiding by a set of tenets or principles, if you will?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because this world seems to be kind of like express yourself, follow your bliss, do your own thing, follow your own truth type of trajectory. More and more as time goes on, people tend to be kind of like the captain of their own ship. And it's like my way or the highway. I'm going to follow my own bliss, my own truth. Truth is kind of a relative thing. And everyone's kind of just following their way and doing their own thing. And you do you, I do me, you do you. So guiding principles that are universal or that are obligatory or that are like divine duty seem to be less and less of a thing nowadays. And it's more of like, hey, it's just kind of relative depending on what your preferences and what you're into. But I believe that there is ultimate truth that is guided by an intelligent designer, such that if there is a designer and the designer created this thing called life, maybe there's some principles that make life more fruitful, more abundant. And so inside of that context, the idea of having a tenet or a principle is really about finding out what's the best way to do life and what's the best way to do it based on how it was designed to be done. So inside of that concept, the reason why I believe tenets are so powerful and so mission critical to living a meaningful life, a productive life, a fruitful life, a life that creates a legendary legacy, not just of attaining, but becoming someone who leaves a ripple effect that really makes an impact in this world. The reason why tenets are so important in my mind is because life circumstances in life, life will throw some stuff at you. It'll kick you in the teeth and kick you in the head while you're down. Life will throw curveballs and challenges. And then on top of that, not only is there circumstances that are outside of our control that are exceedingly challenging and difficult and painful that are outside of our control, but then we have storms on the inside in our hearts. If you're anything like me, chances are you have the proclivity to have storms of selfishness, storms of pride, storms of folly and short-sightedness, desires that lead you astray. I certainly do. Desires that are not fruitful, that are not helpful, that are not virtuous, that are not in alignment with what I really want to be, who I want to be, the life I want to create, the leadership that I want to exude. They're completely hypocritical and fly in the face of who I want to be. That's my humanity. I'm just being real with you, Penny. That is my humanity. And they cause me, and chances are they cause you to make choices that are self-destructive, either destructive to yourself and or destructive to others or both. So using a metaphor, I like metaphors because it helps to shine light and illustrate a principle. And I was listening to a podcast recently by Craig Rochelle, who has an amazing leadership podcast. And he's also a kind of novice pilot, I suppose. Certainly better than most for the short amount of time that he's been piloting, but he's still technically a novice because he's new to it. And one of the things he was sharing is how when you're advancing in your certification as a pilot, eventually there's a threshold where you need to pass the instrument test, where you literally have to learn how to fly just based on the instruments, not based on what you're seeing outside the dashboard, outside the window. but just based on the instruments. So a pilot flying in fog, for example, they can't see outside of the window. They have to rely on the instruments, and they have to abide by the tenets or principles that they've been taught in their flight school, in their training, to be able to fly safely from point A to point B without being able to see through the actual dash, the actual window. I'm using the word window, but there's probably a better term for that as a pilot. But you get the idea. They're not able to use their faith eye. They have to use their instrument. They can't use their flesh eye. They have to use their faith eye based on the instruments and the principles of what they were taught in flight school. So taking it back to us in the front lines of real life as humans, mortgage professionals, business professionals, wanting to accomplish more, be more fruitful in our life. As humans, we don't have vision all the time to be able to see clearly what's going on through the window, the dashboard of our business. Sometimes we're uninformed, we're misinformed, we make judgments that are based on erroneous assumptions. There's fog because we just don't know what we don't know. And it clouds our vision and it affects our decision making. We have also inner fog, right? The inner fog of emotions. If you're anything like me, it's like every day it's a different emotion. Sometimes it's an emotion of doubt, sometimes fear, sometimes inadequacy, sometimes uncertainty, sometimes just pure selfishness. But there's also emotions of passion and emotion and enthusiasm. And even enthusiasm, while it's a positive emotion, if it's not founded on truth and data, and it's based on an erroneous assumption, sometimes even my enthusiasm can lead me astray. So that inner fog of my emotions, desires, lack of knowledge, wisdom, maturity, vision, that can influence my decision-making in a wrong way that has me heading towards the wrong direction. So tenets or principles allow us to chart our course to victory from point A to point B, from where we are to where we want to be in victory, even in the midst of the fog, when things feel scary, look chaotic, feel chaotic, things are confusing, overwhelming, uncertain, whatever the case may be. That fog doesn't have to stop us from getting to victory. In fact, we can abide in those principles, those tenets, in the midst of the fog and still flourish and still achieve the victorious outcome that we've set off to achieve and to get to. So that's the reason why I believe tenets and principles are so important in our life.
I think that's incredible. I think you're absolutely right. If you do put it in the perspective of flying an airplane, looking out a window, you're certainly not going to get there just with a hope and a prayer alone, right? So Certainly the principles of the devices within that plane, that's really what's going to get you there. And business and being a mortgage professional, it's no different, right? We have a set of principles for a reason. And that's what makes the rock stars rock.
Yeah, and it's one thing to be like, hey, I need to have faith in this principle, even though that deal went sideways, or even though there's too much month at the end of the money. That's one thing that can be scary. But when you're flying 3,000 feet above the ground in this, huge vehicle made out of metal that is seemingly defying gravity, and you can't see through the window and you're having to rely on instruments, that takes a lot of faith, even though you understand the physics and you understand the instrumentation and you understand the fact that the instruments are telling you things that you certainly can and should believe in and trust. That's still a faith walk, and that still takes a considerable amount of training in faith to be able to do that without having your heart pounding a little harder, if you know what I mean. So yes. There's definitely a faith component of this that is required. But as we walk in faith and trust in these principles, we're going to notice that they become self-reinforcing and so rewarding that we never want to stop.
I like it. So now I've got another question for you.
Okay.
So how did you arrive at these 10 tenets of top producers anyways? How did you arrive at this?
Well, I'm glad you asked, my dear. It was just basically a brain fart, honestly. No, just kidding.
Those are the best kind.
Probably a little bit of a brain fart, but also after 2 decades of coaching mortgage pros to breakthroughs, I've had a front row seat, the privilege of a front row seat to observe the contrasting philosophies, habits, routines, rituals, ways of thinking between those who succeed and those who don't. Those who are uber effective in their role as a mortgage professional, uber successful when it comes to the prosperity, the freedom, the volume, the units, the closings, the achievement they've had in their business, versus those who don't, who struggle, who are on the struggle bus such that they never really get off of it. I've seen the contrast between those two types of profiles, if you will. After 2 decades, I'd have to be a complete moron not to pick up a few clues, because indeed success leaves clues. So I've just basically been hungry for answers and curious enough to dig for them. And I've been curious to know, what are the guiding principles that keep the victorious continuing to win, and the ones who feel like victims and head towards the ditch and end up getting chewed up and spat out, or stay stuck in the struggle bus where they're continually in the roller coaster ride from hell, up 1 month, down the next, and they never get past the lack, limitation, and scarcity of mediocrity. What's the difference that makes the difference? What are the principles that the successful follow that the unsuccessful neglect? And for those who are not achieving fruitfulness at the level that they're called to and capable of, what principles are they neglecting, compromising, that are causing them to slide back? Sometimes people will get to the top of the mountain, they'll slide down the other side. So it's not like it's guaranteed. Success is never guaranteed. I've heard it said that the rent fee for success is due every single day. You don't own it, you rent it. And it's something you have to pay every single day. And so it's not just about getting somewhere. And we're going to learn more about that in the first 3 tenets. But it's about the philosophy that allows one to continue to soar higher, continue to advance and to grow and build momentum in a positive direction. And so I just think it's fascinating to notice the differences, the contrasts, and the clues that lead to 2 different complete outcomes, one in flourishing and the one in lack, limitation, and scarcity. And the momentum I've noticed, the momentum that you see in someone who's successful, not just successful on the outside with income, but successful in terms of a happy home, flourishing family, a fit body, growing in their connection to God and faith, and feeling a sense of fulfillment, making a difference, living a purpose that's meaningful and really serves others. I've noticed that the momentum in that is preceded. All that momentum on the outside is preceded by momentum on the inside. That there are things that are happening on the inside, the hidden realm, in the way they think, the way they feel, and the habits that they have in their philosophy and their way of life, that is the root cause of all the fruit on the outside. So this talk, this session today, this episode is going to be digging into the root that produces the fruit, because this is a cause and effect universe. And if you want to change the fruit, we've got to first change the root. And so that's what we're going to dive into today.
I love that. I love that. So you're absolutely right that success leaves clues. And I think we will hear that probably a couple more times as we go throughout this today. So I can't wait to jump in a little bit deeper into this today. So let's dive in a little more, Doran. So what are at least a few of these 10 tenets of top producers that separate everyone from separate the top producers from everyone else? Let me get that one a little better. I was such a tongue twister.
I know.
Too many T's in there.
I warned you in advance, sister. It is a tongue twisting.
Too many T's in there.
It's a great way to keep it real, keep it raw on this podcast. Put a tongue twister in there, just to kind of
there's
walk
a good
the
tongue twister in there.
We get to walk the tightrope every time we do this podcast live, just to reveal our humanity and say, hey, you guys, if we can do it, you can do it.
You go.
We're here to make you feel good about your humanity, not to run away from it. So again, you're welcome. We're here for you.
Yeah.
And Penny's always game to play too. Right? Exactly. Progress, not perfection. You got it. So yeah, this is a 3-part series. We're going to dive in and see how many of these we can rock out today. I have a feeling we're going to rock at least 3 of them. So let's dive in with the first one, the first tenet. Top producer tenet number 1 is seek not what you can get for yourself, but rather what you can give to others. So if you're taking notes, and I encourage you to do so, that's a writer downer for your first tenet. Seek not what you can get for yourself, but rather what you can give to others. So don't be a go-getter, be a go-giver is the basic idea there. And the Bible calls this principle in very simplistic terms, the concept of it's more blessed to give than receive. That's a principle that Jesus taught. It's more blessed to give than receive. Now, does that mean we shouldn't receive? Of course not, because if you're not receiving, you're actually stealing the gift from someone else from giving. So we need to have that circuitry. It doesn't mean you don't receive and you cause a blockage and blockade from other people having the blessing to give to you, because that would be stealing someone else's blessing. But what it means is you want to be conscious to be a sower. Don't just be a reaper, be a sower. Because guess what? Without sowing, there is no reaping, is there? And as the late and great Jim Rohn said, you're going to get good at one of 2 things. You're either going to get really good at sowing in the spring or get really good at begging in the fall. Obviously, sowing in the spring is a lot more pleasant and pleasurable than begging in the fall. Yeah. So giving is the way we do that. We sow seeds with quality seed. How do we know it's a quality seed? Because it brings value to others. Giving is about bringing value to others. When there's an exchange, the value is weighted for the other person. And it's more blessed to give value that's weighted for the other person than it is to have an exchange where the value is only on your side, where the other person's not getting much and you're getting a lot. To have a circuitry where you're always getting versus giving becomes now a situation where you're no longer in the position to reap an abundant harvest. So we want to position ourselves to reap an abundant harvest. And being other person focused is a catalyst for blessing. That's the big idea there. Giving, being other people focused, serving others' needs, serving other people and bringing value to others, certainly in the marketplace of capitalism, this applies as well, is a catalyst for blessing for you. So conversely, selfishness, when you're focusing on yourself, what am I going to get? How many referrals am I going to get from my partners? When's the last time you sent me a deal? It's been how long? You haven't sent me any deals yet. You're self-focused. And you're talking to them about, hey, how come you haven't sent me a deal yet? Notice how that's focused on who, them or you. All right, it's focused on you. So that self-focus, which is often linked to pride, ego, coming to dominate or control or suppress or oppress, any of those energies, that's a catalyst for blight or bane. And that's all destructive. It leads to decay. It leads to chaos. It leads to destruction. It leads to things withering versus flourishing. So giving, being a value expander for others, is the catalyst for growth, while pursuing self-gain, being kind of like how I get sometimes, throwing a tantrum and be like, what have you done for me lately? That leads to this focus on self that leads to self-destruction. Because again, we're either focusing on giving or we're focusing on taking. What I've noticed about top producers, they tend to be much more other person focused. It doesn't mean that they're willing to be a doormat. It doesn't mean that they're willing to intentionally let someone take advantage of them. What it means is that they're intentional about bringing value, bringing honor, bringing respect, and at the same time having a value exchange where every interaction, the other person is blessed, benefited, and served in some way, where there's a lasting impression of value being left, where every interaction, there's more light brought than shadow. We want to bring more light into that relationship, that connection, than the shadow And the shadow is absence of light. It's an absence of light. There's actually there's nothing in a shadow aside from the absence of light. So absence of light is where we come to take, and we're not bringing love, we're not bringing light, we're not bringing leadership. We're actually coming to take advantage of someone. So I really need to check my heart on this one a lot of times, because whether it be in my business, with my team members, for example, I have a team member and they do something out of protocol, or they do something that's not ideal, that costs me money. Any of you guys who are employers, you know what I'm talking about. You have a team member, they do something and it costs you money. It's easy to have the inclination to get snappy, or to lash out at them, or to say, to not treat them with dignity and honor. And the idea here is you're bringing light and leadership, where you say, where can I take responsibility? Where did I fall short as a leader? Did I provide the protocol, procedure, playbook to support them in this? Where did I give them clear instruction? Oftentimes, the reason why my team blundered something and cost me money is because I didn't actually have it delineated in the playbook. That's on me. And a great principle for leadership is to always err towards taking ownership and say, where did I fall short in my leadership with this person? Now, sometimes we just need to let people go. We provide the playbook, we provide the protocol, we provide the systems, we provide the training, we give them everything, and they're still not getting it. That's when we need to bless them or release them in love. So again, we're not coddling people's comfort zones to the point where it's detrimental to ourselves and our mission and other people that are affected when there's mediocrity or compromise or neglect. So it's a fine balance. But the principle here is, when you're going after realtor partners, for example, you're focusing on what can you bring to the relationship versus what you can take from the relationship. When you're speaking with clients, you're focusing on what are their needs? How can I be a vehicle to take them from where they are to where they want to be, versus what commission can I earn, regardless of their needs, regardless of what works for them. So to make this a little bit more of a practical application, I'll give you two examples. Low producers tend to be a piece of the pie taker with their partners, right? Where they're showing up often unwittingly as loan leeches and mortgage parasites. How did your weekend go? How is the open house? You got any buyers for me? It sounds kind of warm and fuzzy, but underneath it, it's basically just a big stinky turd of selfishness. And they got some sugar crystals sprinkled on it, some chocolate sprinkles on it that make it, seem a little bit more benevolent, but underneath there's just selfishness. So where's the deal you can send my way is basically what they're trying to do. Right. While top producers tend to have this, they follow this tenet of, I'm coming to give, not take. I seek not to seek my own interests, but seek other people's interests. So what does this realtor need? Where do they need help? Where are they leaving money on the table? Where are they unwittingly perhaps leaving a lot of juice in the fruit, meat on the bone? So they're a whole pie expander versus a piece of pie taker. They're thinking about, how can I expand the pie of this realtor? How can I help them get more buyers and sellers? How can I help them get more revenue and profit? How can I help them earn more while working less? How can I help them have more peace of mind, more freedom, and more success in their business with less time, energy, and effort? They're helping them get more juice from the squeeze, right? That's a whole pie expander versus a piece of pie taker. So that's the real estate partner example. Would you like one more example, Penny, just for a good measure?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this one will be I think anyone who's been in the business for a while, you'll really be able to relate to this one. So this tenet also applies with clients, of course, because, in this business, we can make a hefty sum per deal, right? We can make $3K, $5K, even $10K plus per deal, depending on the size of it and how many points you're charging, what's your commission, your basis points. So there can be a lot at stake in having a deal go through, as you know, and closing that deal, you got a big chunk of cash in the form of zeros and commas that gets injected into your bank account, which is wonderful, but it also can be very tempting to not abide by principle and be selfish, focusing on self versus serving. So without this principle of seeking not your own interests, but the interests of others, chances are you will seek your own interest when it comes to big fat commission checks, right? And perhaps you've already found this to be true in your own business. Hopefully, you followed this principle to a T and you felt good about the fact that you led the client to the best solution, even if it didn't turn out to be a payday for you, because it was better for the client that they did something else that paid you less or paid you nothing than for your conscience to be seared or to go against your conscience by having a solution being recommended that you knew in your heart was not the best outcome for the client. It may be good for you, but you knew in your heart it wouldn't be good, the best outcome for the client. And so that's what top producers do. They abide by this principle, even if it means walking away from a big fat commission check. So seek not what you can get for yourself, but rather what you can give to others. You with me on that, Penny?
I am. I love that, and it just reminds me, someone in our industry once said to me, sometimes we just have to work for bus fare, as they say, to do what's right for the client. And I think that that's really important, and that person that said that to me is a top producer in our industry. They win awards all the time. They're constantly recognized in the industry. And, they've even said, once in a while that you got to work for bus fare if it's right for the client. And I think that that's important. And that just shows, the key distinction between the piece of pie person and the whole pie person. So I think that was a very, very great tenet to start with. So, yeah.
And what's great about that, I love that saying, working for bus fare, is the bus is taking you to an even better outcome. So top producers, they don't just kind of grit their teeth and grimace and be like, oh, I got to just work for bus fare. It's like, no, this bus is actually taking me to a better client, a better referral partner, a bountiful place where there's even more business because I did the right thing. Even if you don't believe in God, you can just believe in karma or whatever the case may be, where it's like, I just believe that doing the right thing is always going to lead to a bus trip to a bountiful place. And when you have that faith and that trust, everything always works out for me when I do the right thing. Even when it doesn't seem like doing the right thing is working out for me, I know that it's just a matter of time until it does. Everything always works out for me when I do the right thing.
Yes, absolutely. So I like that one.
Indeed. Yeah. It's one of those where we have to go against our own short-sightedness and our own instant gratification proclivity and our own tendency towards maybe not necessarily greed, but necessity, because oftentimes when it's hardest to do this is when there's bills stacking up and you're like, man, I could have paid off all that debt, or I could have paid that bill that's coming in that I have no idea how I'm going to pay it. I could have paid it if I just bent the rules a little bit, if I compromised just a little bit. So when it's hardest is when you know that there's an obligation and a responsibility that you know is the right thing to do on the other side, which is paying the bills. That's the right thing to do. As provider in your home, that's the right thing to do. Providing for your family, it's the right thing to do. But then there's also another right thing to do, which is serving the client to the best outcome. So we do what we want most, which is to have a clear conscience and to abide by this tenet of top producer, this principle. We do what we want most, which is to be a leader of the light, not the darkness, in spite of the fact that in the moment it feels like it's going against what we want now, which is to pay the bills.
Yes.
And that's the rub.
Yes. Yeah, that's a big one.
That is the test of the soul right there.
No kidding. No kidding. Wow. Well, Doran, let's dive into the next one because now you got me excited.
Okay, let's do it. So, tenet number 2, top producer tenet number 2 is this: success is in the becoming, not the attaining. Success is in the becoming, not the attaining. Now, I can't tell you how many times as I've been going through my phases of life and hopefully growing out of immaturity into some degree of more maturity as a business owner, as a leader, as a father, as a husband, I can't tell you how many times I've had this gravitational pull to feel like my happiness is out there somewhere. It's in making more money. It's in going from being single to being married. It's going from not having kids to having kids. It's going from getting to this level of business to this level of business. It's going from being able to delegate this so I don't no longer have to do that. I can start to do this, right? It's like a constant gravitational pull. Perhaps you can relate. So most people, right? You're with me on that, right, Fetty? It's like, welcome to the
I
club.
think we've all been there at least once in our lives.
Absolutely. Welcome to being human.
Yes.
So here's the truth. Most people achieve to be happy. They want to achieve something so that they can be happy on the other side of it. They think that if I can just get to that, then I'll be happy. I'll be happy when I'm financially free. I'll be happy when I'm married or I'm divorced or whatever the case may be. I'll be happy when I have a nicer home, a bigger home, a nicer car, a bigger, whatever the case is. Their happiness is in the attainment of something. Now, the problem with that is that it doesn't work, right? If it worked, the celebrities of this world who have all the money, all the fame, all the fortune, who've achieved all their dreams would be the happiest people on earth. And clearly that is not the case. You look at the tabloids, that's not the case, right? They've gone through 5 different marriages. They've got all this drama and trauma. Some of them have taken their lives. It's like, it's terrible. It's because that way of life, that equation does not work. Trying to get somewhere so you can be happy does not work. Even though we try, we do the best we can absolutely do to make it work. We're like, man, I know it doesn't work for them, but they're dumbasses. I'm the one who's going to make it work, right? I know those dumbasses couldn't make it work, but I'm going to be the one person who makes it work. And then we find out that it's not going to work for me either. And my goal is to not have to bang my head against the same brick wall over and over and over and over again. I've had to learn the hard way on this. I've got a very low pain threshold, but a very high folly threshold. So what that means is I can do a lot of stupid things and not really come to my senses, but because I can't handle much pain, it whacks me over the head such that I'm like, I better learn something about this because I don't like pain very much. So that's where I need to kind of like look and say, okay, what can I learn from this? And what I've been learning as I've been going on this journey for 46 years on this planet is that there's an equation to happiness that is totally counterintuitive. It's totally counterintuitive. We want to be happy, but the pathway to happiness is completely counterintuitive. Yes. So let me unpack that.
Please.
Those who place their happiness in the attainment of their dreams are like the person who sacrifices blood, sweat, and tears to climb the ladder of success, only to find out that the ladder is leaning up against the wrong building. It's not actually getting them where they want to be. And money, as an equation of success, if you will, it can give you it can give you, certainly a certain amount of freedom and comfort. So it's not like money is bad. As Ziggy Ziglar said, it ranks right up there with oxygen. So nothing wrong with money. The best way to help the poor is not be one of them. So it's not like having money is bad, but it's a magnifier of who we already are. If we're greedy, then having more money will make us more greedy. If we're generous, having more money will make us more generous. It's just a magnifier of what we already are. So achieving and attaining is not the problem. It's healthy to achieve. It's healthy to crush it in your business. It's healthy to be a super provider for your family. It's healthy to achieve rewards and recognition and stand on the stage as a super achiever in the industry. It's healthy and praiseworthy to achieve. The problem is not in the attainment, it's in the motive of why you want to attain. Motive matters. So are you achieving to be happy or are you happily achieving? That's a question worth really thinking about. Are you motivated to go out there and conquer your dreams so you can be happy? Or are you happily achieving because you know that pursuing these goals and pursuing this mission, pursuing this purpose is making something beautiful out of you? Not for what you achieve, but who you become. When you do feel you're most alive and you're most happy, there's clues as to what caused that happiness, that joy, that electrifying energy, that vitality. Success leaves clues that we talked about. Penny even mentioned rightly that that's going to be something we're going to be talking about along the way. So you can't say you weren't forewarned in advance. This is a golden thread we're going to be seeding through this whole conversation. So let me ask you this. When do you feel most alive, most happy? Penny, when do you feel most alive, most happy?
Oh, for me, I would say, honestly, when I see my kids happy and succeeding. My kids are happily succeeding. It means that I have done something incredible so that they can have this happiness and joy, and it brings joy to me. So,
yeah, that's a beautiful mama's heart.
It is. It is.
That is your mama's heart right there.
It is. It is. But
Yeah,
it's very powerful for me. It's very powerful for me. So it inspires me as well to do all of the things that I do. So.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this. That's an extension of you being an example worthy of emulation, such that you've been able to pass on that mindset, pass on that way of life, pass on that growth path to your kids, to your offspring, to the next generation. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely.
So with that in mind, what if your kids were thriving? Now, this is very unlikely to happen, but just hypothetically, what if your kids were thriving and just kicking ass and crushing it, and yet you were wallowing in sorrow, in stagnation, in depression, and feeling like you're falling way short of what you know you're capable and called to, and yet they're thriving and you're just kind of wallowing in the doldrums of mediocrity? Would you still have the same joy through their success?
I don't know. I've never really thought about that.
Crazy idea, right?
It is a crazy idea because I feel like my own happiness is part of what brings about some of the success for them too. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah.
I feel like if I am a naturally happy person, that the people around me are naturally going to feel happy too, right?
Yeah. That's my whole point, is like, you are most happy when you're growing, when
Yes.
your light is shining,
Absolutely.
and when you are stepping into the evolution of the best version of yourself, because we're either growing or we're dying, right?
Yes.
And if you're
1,000%.
dying while your kids are thriving, not in terms of your body dying, but your spirit,
Yes.
you're not getting the true joy of seeing them thriving, because you can't let it in because there's so much sorrow in the way.
Right. It's letting in too much darkness.
There's death and decay in your own soul. You can't let that life and vibrancy and flourishing in, the fullness of that joy. So
Right.
you leading by example is a big reason why they're winning, because you're leading by example in your own winning,
Right.
your own winning mindset, right? So when we're growing and progressing is when we feel most alive. That's the big idea.
Yes.
Not when we've achieved, but when we're on the pathway to achievement, when we're progressing, when we're growing, when we're expanding, not when we've arrived, not when we're comfortable, but when we're on the pathway. You look at Conor McGregor. When did he look most alive? When he arrived and he made $180 million plus, and he's, going out every night with the boys and doing all kinds of shenanigans and getting drunk and having hangovers? Or when he was on the path and he was in the gym every day, and he was getting stronger every day, and he was
Focused.
living by faith every day, and a bigger vision, and he was becoming the best version of himself. Which one do you think which part of that pathway, that journey of Conor McGregor's journey, was he most alive, most fulfilled?
The path to the goal. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
Not in the attaining, but in the becoming. But then here's what happens is we lose sight of it if we don't have tenets and principles on how we got there. then once we get there, we get comfortable and we start to fall off the wagon and we decay, because there's only one thing worse than losing, and that's winning and not knowing how we won.
Yes.
Are you with me on that?
I am.
So that's the power of a tenet or a principle that you abide by as the lodestar that guides your path, that's immutable, it's timeless. So regardless of circumstances, this is the pathway to life. Even when you achieve, this is still the pathway to life. The way of the champion is, I won the championship of the world. What are you most excited about? Ma'am, what are you most excited about? Sir, what are you most excited about? Champion, getting back into the gym on Monday morning.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll celebrate. Yeah, I'll take a vacation, but it's getting back to the gym. It's going back to getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. It's back to growing, not back to the grind, but back to growing.
Yes.
Right? That's the empowered life. That's the pathway to your blessed life, your best life. So here's the rub in all this, though. Here's the rub. This is all this growth. Is it inside your comfort zone or outside of your comfort zone?
Oh, most of the time it's way outside of that comfort zone.
It's way outside the comfort zone, right? So
It is. I like to call it eating the frog, just like the book, right?
Right?
Eat the frog, eat the frog. Do the thing you're most uncomfortable doing. Do it first. Get it out of the way.
Exactly. But when you think of happiness, most people, when you think of happiness, you're not thinking about discomfort. You're not thinking about getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. You're not thinking about the strain and the pain that gets you the gain in the gym. You're not thinking about, getting up early. You're not thinking about stepping out of your comfort zone every day and doing the things that are hard. You're thinking about doing the things that are easy because you earn the right. I deserve this, right? I heard a great saying from leadership expert John Maxwell. He said, to be a champion, you don't do the hard things so you can get to the easy things. You do the hard things so you can handle the harder things. I was like, ooh, God bumps, goosebumps. I was like, man, that hits me right to the core. Ooh. So here's what I call the happiness paradox. The happiness paradox. The happiness paradox is when we seek happiness directly. Give me happiness. Fulfill my needs. Fulfill my wants. So I can be happy. When we do that, we become less happy and more narcissistic. True or not true?
Right. 100%.
Right?
Yes.
Now, when we seek growth, conversely, it requires us to step out of our comfort zone, to become better servants to others, to be able to be the best servant leader we can be for others. That takes a lot of discomfort, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. When we get our eyes off ourselves and we focus on others, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, and seeking that growth path, we become mighty comfortable, not in our comfortable, cozy lifestyle, but we become mighty comfortable in happiness, in joy, in fulfillment. So we get more happiness when we get our eyes off happiness. We get less happy when we focus on getting happy. But when we focus on serving others through a lifestyle of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, and becoming the best servant leader we can be to serve others and bring value to others, we become mighty comfortable in happiness, in joy, in fulfillment. And that is the happiness paradox. I heard it said, this really beautiful line I heard from James Oppenheim. I hope I'm saying his name right. James Oppenheim, he said, "The foolish man seeks happiness in the distance. The wise grows it under his feet." And that's the way of the champion. That's the way of becoming versus attaining. Success is not in the attainment of things outside of yourself. Success is rather in the becoming more virtuous, becoming more humble, becoming more faithful, becoming more loving, becoming more generous, becoming more merciful, becoming more forgiving, becoming more self-controlled, becoming more responsible, more resilient. Those are beautiful virtues. I don't know about you, but I found I cannot become any of those things in my own human flesh and my own human flexing. I fall way short The Bible calls these virtues the fruit of the Spirit because they're not something you can get from flexing in the flesh. You can only get them from above. These are divine gifts from above.
Yes.
Fruit of the Spirit. So how do we get more fruit of the Spirit? We get it by realizing we can't do it in our own power. At least that's my experience. And I know it's the experience of many others who are really honest and have tried doing it themselves. You have to come to the place where you realize you're absolutely, utterly helpless and hopeless to live in those virtues continually and in an expanded fashion in your own strength. You just can't. You're going to fall off the wagon. You're going to blunder. You're going to realize, wow, if you're anything like me, you're going to realize I am completely helpless and hopeless in my own folly, in my own frailties, in my own faults, in my own failures. I'm running out of fingers here. I'm fumbling my fingers, counting them all because I'm running out because I have so much weakness in myself. If I'm honest, I'm human. I fall way short. Only God's perfect. The rest of us fall way short. And that's why I need God's strength. I need God's power because I can't, but he can. Not in my own strength, not in my own self-reliance, but in God's strength, in God reliance. So that's why many top producers, if you'll interview them, you'll find that they have an element of faith, with very rare exception. They tend to be people of faith because they come to realize that to grow in these virtues requires something outside of themselves. They don't have power in their own strength. They need God's power. And spiritual power is not anything you can get through striving, stressing, and grinding and trying to get there and trying to do it yourself and try to get better and be the best you can be. No, that never works. Spiritual power doesn't come from striving or stressing. It comes through surrendering, through trusting, abiding. And for me, that's the power of faith in Christ that allows God's light, God's love to shine in me and through me. And not by my power, but his power. Not to my glory, but his glory. So the true top producer that has sustained, meaningful fruit on the tree never arrives. He's on a continual quest for constant and never an improvement, not to serve himself in his own glory, but to serve others. And if they're a person of faith, for God's glory. He finds his happiness not in the attainment, but in the journey. So we're not happy because we're successful. We're successful because we're happy. So that's the second tenet. It's not about in the attaining, it's in the becoming.
I love that. That's incredible.
And I can't believe it. We still have one more to go. So there's a reason why we needed to chop this up into 3 parts.
I agree. But you know what? This is powerful information. And I think that, when we look deeper into ourselves as mortgage professionals, and we really look at those deep principles, that's really where we find the actual answers. These principles, these tenets are the things that make you different, that make the top producers different. That's what makes the top producers different at the end of the day. So if someone wants to be a top producer, follow these principles. That's simple.
100%. Yeah, they don't go for someone who has the lowest rates. They go for someone who has the most virtue. Yes. And they can feel that virtue. Yes. It comes through in everything they do as the leader who serves versus the piece of pie taker. They're the whole pie expander. People can pick that up. And it doesn't take long for them to notice if you're focused on self or if you're focused on serving. And same goes with your realtors. They're going to sense whether you're a whole pie expander or a piece of pie taker. And it's your virtue that I believe, if indeed you want to have the ultimate expression of that virtue in your life, is going to come not from yourself, but from above. They're going to feel it. They don't partner with you because you have the best programs, the best rates, the best gadgets and gizmos and mouse traps. They work with you because of who you are, not because of what you offer.
Yes.
So that's a very, very powerful principle. Thank you for reminding us about that.
Thank you. So we are coming close to the hour of our session today. So let's talk about point number 3 today.
Indeed. So the third tenet of top producers we're going to talk about today is trials are opportunities for growth. If you're taking notes, you can write that one down. Trials are an opportunity for growth. Now, if you're anything like me, the first reaction to trial is, no, it's an opportunity to gripe and to bemoan my state that this sucks and this shouldn't be this way and why is it so hard? And, it's like I throw tantrums, and I tend to throw tantrums on a regular basis in my own heart. Now, as I'm getting more mature, I don't do it more vocally on the outside, but I feel it on the inside. I throw an inner tantrum, right? I throw I'm pretending to be really strong on the outside, but inside I'm throwing the tantrum. But the tenet here is that trials are opportunities for growth, not tantrums. So this is where we need to remind ourselves the life principle that without pressure, there are no diamonds. Without the agitation, the pain in the flesh of the oyster, there is no pearl. Without the strain and the pain in the gym, when you're, working out, there is no gain of that muscle growth. You don't get growth just by showing up in the gym. You get growth by the pain and the strain. That's what gives you the gain. So there's a saying that strong timber does not grow with ease. The stronger the wind, the stronger the trees. So where there's strong winds along the coast, for example, where the winds gale against the coastal trees, that's where the trees tend to be the strongest, the most resilient, the roots the deepest, the branches most flexible, the trunks deeply rooted. I don't know about you, but I want to be a strong tree. But on the flip side, I don't really want the process of becoming a strong tree. I don't really like how uncomfortable storms are. I don't like the trials. I don't know if anyone who actually is honest and clear-minded and doesn't have a few screws loose would like the adversity of the storms because they're uncomfortable. And humans tend not to be inclined to like discomfort. So it's a very human thing. Now, in my life, the seasons that I've found to be most profoundly growth-inducing, where I've had the most amount of hypergrowth, were born out of when I had the most profound pain. Like in my marriage, we grew the most when I had the most profound, deep pain of divisiveness and fights and sorrow, to the point where I didn't even know if we're going to stay married. I was like, I think maybe you need to stay at your mom's house and we need to have some time away from each other because this is just not working. That was really deeply painful. That's when we started to grow the most because I let go of being self-reliant. And I had no other choice because I'm a man of faith. I had no other choice but to say, God, I need your help. And I stepped into all out God reliance because I had nothing to grasp for in myself. I was at the bottom of the barrel. I was completely poverty stricken. I had nothing. It was that pain that got me to realize that there's got to be something beyond this cul-de-sac of suck that has me on the verge of letting go of a 20-year marriage with my beautiful bride, my helpmate, the mother of my 4 precious children. There was so much at stake there, but I just didn't know how to get out of the cul-de-sac of suck. It was the pain that prodded me to come to new insight and realize how much pride and how much folly I was bringing to my leadership in my home that was causing that pain unwittingly. I wouldn't have had that breakthrough without the breakdown. Likewise, in my business, I got to the point in my business at one point where I was literally bleeding by $15K per month, $180,000 in 10 months. It was actually more than 15K. I guess approximately, I went to public school, so I would need a calculator, but I figured that's around 180K. So I think we're pretty close. $180,000 bleed in 1 year. 15K per month in bleed, where I have 5 dependents, not including myself or my 4 rabbits or my dog. And I don't know what I'm going to do if I hit the bottom of the barrel. It's drastic measures. I didn't know how to fix the problem, which is why the problem was persisting. But out of that pain We had a massive iteration and innovation spurt out of necessity, because necessity breeds invention, as they say, that has allowed me to invent a system for revenue generation where instead of having a 30% lead to closing ratio, we have like a 75% lead to closing ratio. That is a breakthrough, right? But that breakthrough never would have happened if I didn't get pushed way out of my comfort zone and get pushed out of the nest of my comfort zone to grow some wings on the way down, right? So you think about when you've had the most amount of growth, it's probably in the midst of some really painful seasons, some dark storms, some sleepless nights, some very cold winters. And yet we resist the winters. We resist the storms. We say, why me? Why not you? If the storm is preparation for greatness, then you, my friend, are being prepared for something great in the storm. So that's the tenet of the top producer, where we cultivate this belief, this knowing, this truth, this principle in our own hearts and minds, the guiding star, the lodestar that says, this adversity is opportunity. Without the problem, we won't step out of our comfort zone to seek the growth, to create the growth. No problem, no growth. No pressure, no diamonds. So in the midst of the storm, the chickens hide, but the eagles soar higher. Be the eagle. Use the storm to soar higher. Top producers have consciously or unconsciously cultivated a philosophy that allows them to be empowered, resilient, resourceful in the midst of the storm. They say, I do my best work in the midst of the storm. They say, I turn adversity into opportunity. I turn adversity into growth. And that is the tenet of the top producer. It's not an opportunity to gripe. It's an opportunity for growth.
I love that. That's incredible. And, it reminds me, because as I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm actually thinking about moments where, yes, some of the biggest growth for me as well has been the same way, usually through some sort of tough battle of some kind. And I almost want to say that, yes, it's a battle in some cases, right? You literally have to go out and fight a war almost in some cases.
Yeah. The battleground of your mind and your heart.
Battleground. Absolutely. Yes. But, you come out the other side and you are stronger. It's that growth that we just talked about previously. It's the growth that it brings, and that growth brings the happiness. So there it is. We come full circle.
An unhappy circumstance leads to a pathway to growth that leads to more happiness in your life. It makes your roots deeper, your trunk stronger, your branches more flexible.
Yes. Incredible.
So that's all we got time for today. I can't believe we spent all that time on just 3 tenets, but I felt like going deeper versus skipping along the surface is very timely for this kind of conversation, where depth and dimensionalizing and carving the different aspects of these tenets into a little bit more clarity by going deeper and giving examples and illustrations and sharing a little bit about our journey personally, I think drives the principles home a little deeper.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. So with that being said, since both of us have our share of war wounds, let's talk a little bit about how our listeners can explore a little bit more on how they can soar to the next level. Tell us.
I love it. When the storm hits, don't play the chicken, play the eagle, soar higher.
Got it. You got it.
And so we're here to serve you guys to soar higher as the eagles that you are and who you're called to be and capable of being, to soar higher to those higher heights of success and significance and impact in your business, as well as in your personal life. And so the first way we can serve you to do that is in our new school community. If you search on school, SKOOL, easy for me to say, SKOOL. If you search school online and you join by downloading the app, you can download the app on the App Store on your mobile devices or your computer. And then when you download it and you get access to it, search for Mortgage Marketing Coach. We have amazing training in there, all 100% free. We do a masterclass live every single week on different topics. We talk about how to overcome realtor objections, how to get realtors addicted to you and stick you like super glue and send you all their business all the time. We talk about the mindset secrets of elite top producers, how they think differently, similar to what we talked about today, but even in more mortgage specific practical terms. So there's a lot of goodness in there. There's an avalanche of awesome you definitely want to dive into. If you're hungry for growth, you definitely don't want to miss this. You can miss a meal, but don't miss school, baby. And don't miss Mortgage Marketing Coach on School. We have a 3 Days to Thrive course in there as well. That's 100% free. And you can get that by just simply searching School in the App Store, download it and search Mortgage Marketing Coach in School. You'll find our community and apply to join. It's 100% free. So that's the first way we can help you soar and thrive in 2025. The second way is if you are right now looking at your pipelines and it's less flourishing and less vital than you'd like. You'd like a whole lot more deals in the hopper, a whole lot more contracts set to convert, and you realize that what you're doing is not working at the level that you need it to hit your income goals for 2025, then I invite you to switch upgrade from the pea shooter to the tank, upgrade from trying to fill your swimming pool with a squirt gun to filling it with a fire hose. And the way you do that is through leverage. So at mortgagemarketingcoach.com, we provide you with the shortest path to the cash to hit whatever income goal you want to achieve by enacting the power of leverage. Instead of trying to dig the foundation hole for your skyscraper with the shovel, we want to upgrade to the excavator. It's so much more fruitful. It's so much more fun. It's so much more easy breezy, lemon squeezy. No extra brownie points at the bank for doing it the hard way. So why do it the hard way? So if you're 100% commission mortgage pro, you earn 70 basis points or higher, and you want to add at least $100,000 plus to your annual income, and you're sick and tired of doing it the hard way, banging your head against the wall and continuing to perpetuate the problem by doing the same thing and getting the same results, I invite you to reach out to us and see what we can do to put your business on hypergrowth by working smarter, not harder. All you simply need to do is go to mortgagemarketingcoach.com/chat and book a call. We're going to lift up the hood on your business. We'll look at what's working, what's not working, where you're at now, where you want to be. And if we can help you create a breakthrough in your business, by all means, we will show you what that looks like instead of our proven system. And if not, frankly, we'll be the first to advise you to pass. But either way, you will leave that call with massive value, massive clarity, and chances are we're going to have some fun. So if that sounds meaningful and worthwhile to you, book a call, mortgagemarketingcoach.com/chat. And last but not least, if you got value from today's session, from this episode, or from any of the previous episodes you've watched or listened to, I invite you to subscribe to our podcast if you've not already done so you don't miss any of the episodes forthcoming. We do these episodes every second week. We got a whole lot more in store. So make sure you subscribe so you get all the good stuff that's forthcoming as we support you to thrive in 2025. And also, thank you in advance for sharing this episode with colleagues, friends, people in your community that you think would benefit from it. And if you feel like we deserve a 5-star review, please do. It helps us serve other awesome mortgage pros just like you. So Penny, that's all we got for today. Thank you for being a huge catalyst for bringing value to our community by hosting this podcast and all the light and love and leadership you bring to Mortgage Marketing Coach, all our clients at Planet Prosper at Mortgage Marketing Coach, and all the people that benefit from the light, love, and leadership you bring every single day. You make a difference. You are definitely a whole pie expander, not a piece of pie taker. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are a beautiful, bright light, and I appreciate you very much.
Aw, well, thank you so much, Doran. I appreciate you every day.
I'm glad it's
grateful to be here. I love this every day. It's like what I say, create a life that you don't need a vacation from. And here it is, folks, right? Do what you love and everything else follows, right? Do what you love. So, and I love working with mortgage pros, and that it's my ultimate fulfillment. So there it is.
Yeah, because you're not about being the hero.
Only Darren Aldana, like
right, and likewise, the one and only Penny Rightly. I mean, come on now, how blessed am I? And the reason why you love working with mortgage pros is because you're not just here to show up as the hero; you're here to make heroes, and that's what makes your leadership so powerful.
You got it. You got it. I love to see them shine, and that's where it is for me, right?
Yeah.
When I see them shine, to me, it's like that's the ultimate. That's the everything.
Yeah. Seek not what you're wanting to gain for yourself, but seek the gain for others. And you live that, you embody that. You're a living, breathing exemplification of that principle. So that's one of the reasons why I love rolling with you. And one of the reasons why I love being your co-pilot and being on this mission to touch hearts and change lives. Let's go.
Aw, beautiful. Well, let's bring it. Let's make 2025 the year to thrive.
Amen, sister. Amen. So the more we grow, guys, your business, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, is a personal development course with a compensation plan attached. The more you grow, the more your income grows. So don't just go to the next level in 2025. Let's grow to the next level. That's how we're going to have you thrive in 2025. Be blessed, y'all. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace, y'all. Thanks for being with us.